Rembrandt van Rijn, a prominent Dutch painter and etcher of the 17th century, is celebrated for his profound contributions to art, particularly during the Dutch Golden Age. Known for his masterful use of light and shadow, a technique called Chiaroscuro, Rembrandt brought a unique emotional depth and realism to his subjects. His works often explore themes of human emotion, spirituality, and the complexities of life, making them timeless and relatable. Rembrandt's special style combines intricate detail with dramatic contrasts, allowing him to create dynamic compositions that draw viewers into the narrative. He is particularly famous for his portraits, which reveal the inner lives of his subjects, and for historical and biblical scenes that capture the human experience. In this video, we will discuss 5 of his most famous works, showcasing his innovative approach and unmatched skill. The Night Watch, 1642. The painting, commissioned in 1640 for the ceremonial hall of a citizen's militia and completed in 1642, is Rembrandt's largest painting to have survived. In 1715 it was hung in the New Town Hall, today's Royal Palace. During Napoleon's reign it was moved to the Trippenhuis, which was then a science and arts institute, and it eventually found its way to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, where it remains the highlight to the present day. It is now common knowledge that the title The Night Watch is misleading. The event portrayed, a company of militiamen setting off, takes place daytime. The command to do so is issued by Captain Frans Banning Kock, who can be seen in the foreground. Gesturing with his left hand, he commands his lieutenant, Willem van Ruytenberg, to get his disorder troop of men to fall in. The captain's hand casts a distinct shadow on Ruytenberg's uniform jacket, proof that the scene takes place in broad daylight. The dark background can be largely ascribed to the darkening of the layers of paint and varnish in some sections of the painting. The company is assembled on the square in front of the main entrance to their assembly rooms, on the steps of which the figures are informally arranged on 3 descending levels. According to the contract, Rembrandt received 1,600 guilders for the commission. Each of the 16 members of the company paid a varying amount, depending on their position in the picture. In fact, almost twice as many people are depicted. There are a total of 28 men, plus 3 children, and not all of them can be allocated to a rank within the troop. Rembrandt, who was personally never a member of one of volunteer militias formed for the defence of Amsterdam, gives his picture a hint of irony by portraying the company as an array of not very martial-looking men who clearly have difficulty handling the awkward implements of war. The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicolaas Tulp, painted in 1632. That he was commissioned to paint a group portrait intended to embellish the Assembly Hall of Amsterdam's Surgeons Guild shows just how quickly Rembrandt, who was only 26 years old at the time, made a name for himself as a painter among the city's upper classes after his arrival from Leiden. Confidently, the artist followed the custom of the great masters of the Italian Renaissance in signing the painting with only his given name, not adding his patronymic Harmenszoon nor his name Van Rijn. Harking back to Dutch painting traditions, this work shows the public lecture on the anatomy of the hand given by the well-known Amsterdam physician Nicholas Tulp in January 1632. Tulp, the first specialist in anatomy in the local Surgeons Guild, enjoyed such a reputation in his field that was described as the Dutch equivalent to Andreas Vesalius, the founder of modern anatomy. The dissections, carried out yearly before an audience, were recorded in several group portraits by other artists. Rembrandt himself returned to this genre much later in his career when he painted the Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Damon in 1656, showing the latter in the process of examining a brain. The 7 members of the audience gathered around Dr. Tulp's dissection table are not physicians but magistrates, and their names are recorded in a list that one of them holds in his hand. The name of the man whose body was selected after execution is recorded too. The painting expresses equal amounts of scientific curiosity and a certain revulsion. Tulp is carrying out a dissection of the tendons in the hand, whose function he is demonstrating with his left hand, which is free. As the anatomical precision of the depiction proves, Rembrandt had detailed knowledge of the human body which Leonardo da Vinci had long before demanded every artist should have. Rembrandt stayed in contact with Dr. Tulp's family for many years. This work of Rembrandt is a compelling depiction of a public dissection that highlights scientific curiosity, emotional depth, and Rembrandt's mastery of detail. Self-portrait with 2 circles, painted in 1663. Rembrandt is approaching 60 years of age. The passage of time has left deep traces on his face, and he does not hide these from the viewer. The wiry fear-naught of the Leiden period has become a sedate old man. However, the same eyes of a painter aware of himself and of his art, look out from under the heaviness of the contours. Compared to his early work, the painting style in particular has changed radically. Where once there were finely chiselled details, now there is a heavy, full-bodied application of paint that seems to radiate light. Rembrandt stands in front of a blank wall, coloured in light ochre, in his painting studio. Compared with the self-portraits of the previous years, the focal point has been shifted slightly further into the background. Behind the subject of the painting, one can make out 2 large circles. To this day, their meaning remains unknown. Are they simply proof of the artist's continued ability to carry out precise brushstrokes, mysterious symbols with a deeper meaning, or perhaps 2 terrestrial hemispheres in the manner of the Dutch sea charts of the period? However one interprets them, the painter stands firm and immovable between the 2 circles, and being the centre of the composition, commands the entire pictorial space. He looks with composure towards the next chapters in a life that has been characterised by frequent calamities. In his left hand he holds the tools of his trade, palette, maul stick and paintbrushes, which appear to melt into a single entity. Without any doubt, this self-portrait is an introspective work that offers insight into Rembrandt's self-perception, marked by honesty and vulnerability. The Jewish Bride, painted in 1667. An intimate portrayal of a couple celebrated for its warmth, tenderness and expert use of colour and texture. As is the case with a number of Rembrandt's paintings, the title was not given by the painter himself. Here, the title is actually misleading, for the painting gives no indication that it represents a Jewish wedding. It belongs to the double portrait genre, which was traditionally employed to commemorate weddings. The first of these portraits of couples go back to the Renaissance in Italy and to Frans Hals in the Netherlands. It has not yet been possible to identify the 2 subjects of this portrait. One suggestion has been that Rembrandt painted this work as a memorial to his son Titus's engagement to his bride Magdalena van Loo. A delicate interplay of interlaced gestures and glances between the man and the woman governs the painting's composition. From the point of view of technique, it is characterized by the dense application of colour, which is in some places so thick that one can assume that Rembrandt worked on these areas with a spatula. The delicate interplay of the hands, in particular, is accentuated by the plasticity of the paint. The colours not only reflect the light that falls on the figures, they also create the appearance of the tangibility of material presence. The difference between the ways in which the faces and the robes are handled makes it quite clear that this was not a result of diminished sight or an unsteady hand, but that Rembrandt made a conscious artistic decision to use paint in this physical way. The Return of the Prodigal Son, painted in 1668. During the last year of his life, Rembrandt had to endure a great calamity. Just 7 months after the wedding, his deeply beloved son, Titus, died. Magdalena, his wife, was 3 months pregnant. Once again, Rembrandt's life seems to be mirrored in one of his paintings. The Return of the Prodigal Son is the last large-format painting by Rembrandt. He takes on the biblical subject with harrowing forcefulness. Father and son have almost melted into a single block in an act of affection simultaneously physical and emotional. An unbridgeable chasm separates father and son from those around them, whose body language and looks express coldness and incomprehension. The old father is bent over the maltreated body of his returning son, as though he wants to both embrace and protect him. Exhausted, the son, so emaciated that he has become unrecognizable and physically disfigured, seems to abandon himself to his father's warming embrace. The red of the cloak that covers the father's shoulders stands in contrast to the light brown rags wrapped around the son. The cloak also envelops the couple and lifts them out of the darkness into which the background sinks. This painting by Rembrandt is a profound exploration of forgiveness and redemption, renowned for its emotional depth and masterful use of light to convey spiritual themes.